education system, digital, and then we'll have a double topics as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So just give me a second. I'll just go live. Is it live already? I guess. Okay, cool. So Sergeant at Arms, let's take it up. I think people will join because they're in traffic, like Lakshmi and all are in the traffic. So
Just one second before we start. Just want to clarify the meeting number. What meeting number is it? Is this 37, 38? Like, I just want to know the number.
We cancel 2, no? Maybe 37, I think. Yeah. We'll have a good count later. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so shall I start? Good evening, everyone. I am Toastmaster Ashwin, your Sergeant at Arms for this meeting. Welcome to Dubai Podcasters Club meeting number 37. The mission of this Toastmasters Club is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Toastmasters International has 4 values: respect, integrity, service, and excellence. Before we proceed with the meeting, kindly note that to respect the sentiments of the region, we don't speak about the taboo topics: politics, sex, and religion. Before we proceed with the meeting, I would also like to request that all of you mute yourselves throughout this meeting unless you are invited to make a speech. If your camera is on, please refrain from unnecessary movements which may distract the speaker or others in the room. You may choose to switch off your camera as well. If you are driving a vehicle, we recommend that you refrain from connecting to this meeting because it may distract you. Your safety is our concern. This meeting is recorded and will be available on social media. And that's all. I can say sit back, relax, and enjoy the meeting from the comfort of your own home. Now let's welcome our president to formally open this meeting, Toastmaster Alethea.
super. Thank you, Ashwin, our most young and energetic Sergeant at Arms, and really building on his leadership skills. And we can see that, and we enjoy it to see him in the making. Yet another meeting of podcasters. Some of the members are still joining, so they should be on board shortly. I'm going to just, I'm not sure, right? Raisa, are you a Toastmaster? Raisa Mohidin?
Russia. No, I'm not a Toastmaster. I'm not a Toastmaster. But
Razia, sorry.
so sorry, there's a lot of chaos in the background. My kids are making a fuss. Okay, I'm in the. I was invited to the group by Nana, and I'm coming here for the first meeting. So I'm like, just looking around what's happening.
Okay, super. So are you already creating digital content, or are you planning to, or are you aspiring to, or just
I'm
curious?
aspiring to start digital content in terms of podcasting, respecting all my boundaries and everything. So yeah, that's
brilliant.
where I am. Yeah.
Super then. So that's excellent. So welcome on board. Since we have a guest, I'm going to run the presentation just quickly. So we are Podcasters is basically a specialty Toastmaster club. We want to create the next level of communication in our members and our guests. And ideally, we're talking about going into blogging, moderators, potential podcasters. And we want to help you to get ready for this new era of digital communication, where technology is playing a much powerful role to enhance and reach the fan that you want to build and create, even beyond the borders of a standard auditorium. And that's what we're all about. So with this note, I want to officially declare this meeting open. Since we have Raisa as a guest, I'm going to very quickly run her through a little bit information about what Toastmasters is on the whole and where podcasters fits in. Welcome, Justin, as well. So let me see if you guys can see my screen. Y'all see my full PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay, super. So here we are, Toastmasters International and Podcasters Toastmaster Club, how that fits in. So Toastmasters is technically a non-profit education organization. It's about learning and developing ourselves, and it's completely a not-for-profit organization, started almost a century away, and it's headquartered in the US, in Colorado. There are more than 364,000 members, almost in more than 145 countries, much more than what KFC and McDonald's have, I think. And it's got 16,200 clubs all over the world. 150 plus clubs in UAE alone with more than 3,000 members. It's a huge, huge, huge fraternity, and it's completely out to educate and, empower people. The founder was Dr. Ralph Medley. The current CEO for Toastmasters is Daniel Rex, and the international president is Richard Peck. We call something called as a DTM, which is Distinguished Toastmaster. When you achieve a few number of levels, that's when you achieve that proud title. And it's really a pleasure to have that. The Toastmasters, like I said, is spread all over the world. And there are many, many regions, and all continents of the world has Toastmasters today. And that's how they, call it. Our region where we are, Middle East and Africa, falls in region number 11, which becomes a part of a district. And our district where we stand right now is UAE, Jordan, Oman, and Lebanon. And then the district is further divided into divisions. Our division is Division F, and there are 7 areas that make a part of this division. So the area that Podcasters Toastmaster falls in is area 60, and we have about 3 clubs in each area. Each area has certain amount of clubs, and that's how it gives you opportunities to build on your leadership skills, like Ashwin already said in his SAA thing. So Podcasters is one of the smallest elements, but we're trying to do disruption. It's about learning how to speak and stuff. And then in Podcasters, we want to do specialty speaking about going online. So why join Podcasters Toastmaster Club? It's for bloggers, moderators, and podcasters. And it's a platform to learn and fail forward, where you can practice and create some content and give it out in our meetings, where you have a closed environment, you have a safe environment where you can practice your content and get some nice feedback on how well it was or not. So it's really beautiful. And it's a place where you fail forward, like I said, and the community is so supportive, and we give you the tools to go and create it. So before you get out there in the big ocean of digital content, where there's so much of sharks and so much of competition, we give you a platform where you can go and practice and present and get some real feedback from different people and different opinions. And you can maybe incorporate it in your next creation that you make. It's led with a group of people. It's not a one-man show. I'm Olivia, the president of Podcasters Club. We have the immediate past president was Toastmaster Samir Gipi. And then there's a team of PR led by Jay Prakash. We have a VP Education, which is led by Abida. We have DTM Deepa, who is our VP membership, who's out here. We have Robin, who's been the secretary of the club. We have our treasurer, who's going to join. She's still driving home. DTM Lakshmi. And we already heard from Ashwin, who is the sergeant at arms of the meeting. What we do unique in Podcasters Club is the panel evaluation. So when you create a content, all the attendees of this meeting become an evaluator. An evaluation is basically a feedback about what they felt about that particular content. So we usually have a content guide who will ask different questions and create an evaluation from the members who are attending and listening. So you don't get a single opinion, but you get varied opinion from different people on the content and how well it was. So Toastmasters technically helps people to build confidence. They make you better speakers, communicators, and that communication was what actually builds leaders. So at every level of Toastmasters, you get a chance to lead and grow and practice your leadership skill. How the platform works, they have pathways, and there's a special task on every theme of pathways that you can select. So there are about 9 of them, 8 or 9, I think. And each level and each pathway selection is according to your criteria, and it has 5 levels of mastery that you run and grow on. So it's extremely a powerful platform. That's it, Mr. Smedley, Ralph Smedley, and he says we learn best in moments of enjoyment. So that was about Toastmasters. Let me quickly stop sharing. Brilliant. So with that, I want to quickly acknowledge some senior members of our meeting today. We have a very, very senior area club growth director, who's also our VP membership, DTM Deepa Surendra. Thank you for being a part of our club and guiding us all the way through. We have Sagar Khurana, who is appointed as our club mentor. He's our coach and guide and our mentor, who's helping us improve the quality of our meetings and make sure our members get maximum value. So that's Sagar Khurana. He's also current president at Dubai Toastmasters Club. And with that note, we are ready to take off our first content. So the part, what we're going to expect today is we're going to do prepared content speeches, which is created in podcast or different sort of digital content. Both the content speeches today are done first time. So they have never done a podcast before, and they're both first timers. And that's what we take a lot of pride on, because we want you to do your first podcast on our platform and get feedback from everyone who's listening. Okay, so we're going to now introduce that segment. We have Syed Faisal, who is the first content presenter. DTM Deepa, would you like to be the content guide for him?
Okay.
Okay, super. So for everyone else who's attending this meeting, Ashwin, PK Ray, welcome in. Manju, welcome in. Lovely to have you. Justin, welcome in. And Razia as well. So whether you've ever done a content or not, you all are going to give feedback on what he presents. Okay, so Justin, are you with us? Say, give me a hi. PK has already showed me his face, I know. So everyone has to be alert and attentive in this meeting, okay? We're not snoozing or multitasking. Though it's allowed with a podcast, because people consume podcast listening while multitasking. And that's how people like to listen to content. And that's why podcast is a lot more favorable than YouTube. And we're going to learn that more later today. So let's bring it on for Syed Faisal. Syed, why don't you introduce your content and then share your audio? And Deepa is going to take it off. Yeah, Deepa, go ahead.
1 second. I mean, we have a guest, Mr. PK Ray.
Yes. Do you want to introduce Mr. PK? Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm a Toastmaster from Toastmasters Club of Lucknow and Envision Toastmasters Club. And I'm a passionate public speaker, if I may say so, and also a retired army officer, enjoying myself doing these things now.
So he's here to support Faisal, I think.
Yeah.
Super.
Not only Faisal, everybody else.
Welcome.
I love the value system of Toastmasters, right? And it's so empowering. Manju, why don't you introduce yourself before Faisal? I know I can see him panicking though. But Manju, you want to introduce yourself? We've had you before. And Justin next.
Hi, I'm Manju. I'm a member of Discovery Garden Toastmasters Club, Dubai, and a member of Founders Toastmasters Club, Dubai. And I'm really curious about what is happening at Podcasters. I'll wait and see what happens. All the best to all the podcasters.
And the latest member of Podcasters and the newest member of Podcasters Toastmaster Club, right?
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
Welcome, Toastmaster Manju.
Super. And Justin, do you want to say a hi?
Hi, hello everyone. Myself Justin. I'm basically from Newtown Toastmasters, and I'm working as a software developer. And I'm also curious about this Toastmasters, what is happening here. So I think I attended one meeting somewhere around. That's why I'm part of a guest group. So from there I learned about this link, and now this time is convenient for me, and I joined in. Let's see.
Brilliant. And which city are you joining from? You're from Dubai?
No, I'm from Kerala in India.
Kerala. Right now based in Kerala.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right now I'm in Kerala, and I'm working as a software developer in remote mode.
Very nice. Super. So with that, Riti and Deepa, allow Syed Faisal to.
Yep. So, good evening, my dear fellow Toastmasters and podcasters. Welcome to Toastmasters Club. Our first content presenter for today is Toastmaster Syed Faisal Saidi, and he is the president of Envision Toastmasters Club. He's the founder and CEO of his own Envision. I don't know whether I am pronouncing it correct. .com, and a digital transformation expert with over 15 years of experience in the biz, helping people achieve the digitalization goals. His passion and being an entrepreneur has given him the motive to organize this particular club under Toastmasters International and connect with like-minded people to talk about business, technology, and supporting the startups. Now, currently, he is based in Saudi Arabia, and he is expanding his horizons. This is the first time he's presenting a podcast in front of an set of audience. So let's put our hands together to welcome Toastmasters Syed Faisal, and all the very best to Faisal. Big round of applause.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Deepa.
1 second, let me just read out the objectives. I am sure as part of the you're presenting this as part of the podcast speech from Toastmasters Pathways Education Curriculum. And the purpose statements requires the project is for the member to be introduced to the skills needed to organize and present a podcast. The purpose of the speech is for the member to introduce his or her podcast and to present a segment of the podcast. So all the best. Sorry for stopping you in between because I forgot the purpose statement.
Okay. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Deepa, for the lovely words and introducing me so well. As you all know, I'm going to present my content for the very first time. If my screen is visible.
Yes. Screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So before I start the video, let me tell you that as in my introduction, you all know that I'm a digital transformation industry professional. I'm working with digital transformation, helping people to digitalize their workplace or working environment. Digital content was one of my weakness, and I wanted to improve it. Podcast is something that was my interest since long time, but the problem was choosing the content, how to present the content, and luckily I got onboarded with Podcasters Club, and they have helped me. They have helped me with the courage to come forward and present my podcast. So this is my very first time. I don't know anything about podcast, how it works. So I have tried just to present 3 minutes content as a demo. Then I would like from all of my evaluators to give me suggestions how I can choose the topic, how I can create a very nice content. So let me present what I have created for you.
Hello world, welcome to my tip. Today I'm reading a story about controlling your temper. Anger, if not controlled appropriately, may later cost you insanely unbearable. One may lose their value, relationship, and more. This story is taken from wealthgorilla.com by Dan Weston. There once was a little boy who had a very bad temper. His father decided to hand him a bag of nails and said that every time the boy lost his temper, he had to hammer a nail into the fence. On the first day, the boy hammered 37 nails into that fence. The boy gradually began to control his temper over the next few weeks, and the number of nails he was hammering into the fence slowly decreased. He discovered it was easier to control his temper than to hammer those nails into the fence. Finally, the day came when the boy did not lose his temper at all. He told his father the news, and the father suggested that the boy should now pull out a nail every day he kept his temper under control. The days passed, and the young boy was finally able to tell his father that all the nails were gone. The father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. "You have done well, my son. But look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar just like this one. You can put a knife in a man and draw it out. It won't matter how many times you say, 'I'm sorry,' the wound is still there." Moral of the story: control your anger and don't say things to people in the heat of the moment that you may later regret. Some things in life you are unable to take back. Dear listeners, what are your takeaways from this story? Do let me know how did you like my podcast. Stay tuned with me to listen to such a thrilling podcast. Stay safe, stay positive. Talk to you soon in another podcast. Bye-bye.
That is all. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast very patiently. Now, the virtual stage is all yours, Toastmaster Deepa, for your evaluation or any feedback you wanted to give.
Thank you. That was brilliant. Big round of applause to our first time podcaster, Toastmaster Faisal. Now, I would request all the attendees over here to switch on the camera and give your recommendations to Toastmaster Faisal, and that will be a very good learning for him as well as for us if we are able to listen and put that, apply that in our podcast. And now to start with, let me ask Toastmaster Faisal itself about the technology platform used by Faisal, which will be really helpful for others who are waiting to start a podcast.
I am belonging to designing background, so I used Adobe Illustrator to design my banner, and I used one free software in my phone, which is Vita in iPhone. That's what two things combined. I just put my voice in the phone and done some editing work with Vita, mixing, and here's the result in front of you.
That was amazing. That really amazing. And moving forward, what's your plan? You will continue using, you will be using the same platform, or you will be switching to the podcast specialized softwares like Anchor, etc.
I must move and become familiarized with the more productive tools and to improve the quality and to introduce myself to the world of podcast. with the good content and with the good usage of technology. Of course, I would like to explore the world of podcasts. So I'm very new. That's why I have used whatever I had available, because once Alifia said, do what you can do. Just take the step and come forward, do something. Participation is the key. So that's what encourages me.
That's the spirit. Actually, this is the best thing somebody, who wants to be in podcast, this particular, environment, or they want to express to the entire world. Just take that first step. And you have done it very brilliantly with whatever is available on your phone. Alifia, do you want to, give some recommendations about the normal softwares which is available, easily available, freely available for any podcaster, for a starter like Toastmaster Faisal and including myself? Do you want to suggest some softwares?
We had suggested to Faisal, but I think he found his comfort with something else, and that's absolutely okay. There's a concept called eclectic approach, where anyone can do anything, but it's about getting started, and you will find your creative comfort no matter what, right? So we have the easiest one for anybody who's never done anything to start off is what we normally recommend in Podcasters Club also strongly, is the Anchor platform, which allows you, and I think Toastmaster Dilshad, our second presenter, has used that. I can see her giggling. So yeah, but we use Anchor. It's very easy. But of course, but it's not the only one. And there's so many other ways of doing it. And the digital world is so much full of choices and so much full of options. And your output, your final result could still be, I really liked the video and the fun thing he had initially, and ideally the fact that it was a video eventually can also be a platform where you put it on YouTube anyway, and you can still have a podcast and then you have it with a YouTube base, and you don't lose out on your search, Google search from any medium if people want to listen to it, or you're searchable everywhere. So nicely done, Faisal. And the most important is your first step that you took. So we are very proud of you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Alifia. What you have done, mentioned over here is exactly the best thing for anybody to start with. Start with something in which we are comfortable with, and that's amazing. Some other the other softwares what Alifia had mentioned, Anchor, Audacity, etc. They have the platform to publish to the new set of audience. They by linking that with the Google and so many other existing platforms. So that will give you kind of visibility or reach to more audience. But initially, this is absolutely fine, and it was a brilliant attempt. You have done it really very well. And if you are able to master any of the other platforms, I'm sure you can incorporate your brilliance in what is that, the Adobe, the designs part into this Anchor, etc. Then that will be really worth investing your time into. That's my opinion. Okay, now moving to the real podcast, the content part of it, or the delivery part of it. Now let's start with Toastmaster Usha. What is your suggestion as how effectively Toastmaster Faisal communicated the message as part of his podcast?
Yeah, good evening, podcasters, and special good evening to our content presenter, Syed Faisal Zaidi. It was a great first attempt, I would say, as you have incorporated with a curious opening, I felt. I mean, it was quite surprising that afterwards it went into a serious mode. So first it started on a funny mode, then into a serious mode, I felt. Then about the content, you presented a story a well-known story to us, that is how to control anger, or what marks it leaves on others. So how can we improve the situation? How can we be friendly or kind to others or generous to others? That's a message that you have presented here. So I like the message and all that. And as a recommendation, I would say that you have incorporated a story from somewhere. Then how could you relate that story to your real life? how did you control your anger? And how did you show that? How could you overcome that anger? Or how could you say or give that message to the audience? That should be there. Then only you can connect with the audience, because a story we can easily take from anywhere else. It's quite available everywhere. The content is available everywhere. We can take from Google whatever we want. But how do we connect with the audience? Then our personal experience is unique to us. It cannot be matched with anyone else. So that is unique to you, and that unique experience, if you present to us, that is convincing to us. That is more what deeply we can go into it. It goes into the core of our hearts, I would say. Otherwise, we feel that, oh, it's a general content that we heard everywhere. So whenever you present a content, I'm not going into the technical aspects. So whenever you present a content, you have to connect with your personal experience should be so touching to the audience that they should feel that, yeah, it's very good, that it goes into our hearts. That feeling we should have while we hear. It's not that easy, I know, because even say it, I preach it, I myself cannot do it. So what I'm advising is very easy, so I can do it, I would say. So I would say that whenever you present a content, I don't know whether you have personal experiences, whether these 3 minutes are only for this particular part. I don't know whether you have a long podcast in which you have experience, and your experiences are narrated, and plus this is only a part in which you have taken that message. That I don't know. So if you are making a content, that content should have relevance. It should be convincing. It should be your real personal examples that cannot be matched with anyone else in this world, because each individual is unique, and that experience he can only have that experience. No one else had. So that experience, if you share with the audience, that would be a great enriching session. I would feel. I feel like that from my very limited experience. Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Toastmaster Deepa.
Thank you, Toastmaster Usha. I 100% I agree with the Toastmaster Usha. The story was really nicely communicated to all of us, but to make it more interesting, if I tell my experience or my opinion, I would start with a moment from my office workplace where somebody or myself, really. Getting upset with somebody, and that is like a communication or a conversation between two, and then slowly I'm jumping to the outcome of, or the negative outcome of that particular conversation. Like, somebody is getting angry and then throwing tantrums, etc. And then the negative outcome of that, and then this particular story, and you give the reference from this is a story written by, or available from where it is reference. So in that format, this can be made to a very personalized experience for the listener, as Toastmaster Usha suggested. This would have been my approach, but you can go and identify your approach and make it more effective. I'm not telling this was not effective, because some people, they actually likes to listen to stories as well, especially people who are like really busy. They want to get small nuggets. 3 minutes is more than enough for them while driving, or from moving from one place to other. 3 minutes nugget kind of advice, that is really good for them, and they may opt. But if you want to have a longer podcast, how to develop the content, you can include a personalized approach to that. Now, regarding the delivery part of the podcast, vocal variety, or gestures, or the comfort level, do you have any suggestion, Toastmaster Sagar?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm not expert in podcasters yet, but in my childhood, I was used to listen to so many radios through. That was my favorite part. So whenever I went to sleep, like 1 hour, 2 hour, I was just listening this podcast. So I never knew that after 10 years, it came back again to us as a podcast at Toastmasters group. If I give some suggestion to say it, I really like the story. I heard this story 10 years back, and it was told by one of my teacher in the school. And that time to this time, I never forget that story, because the story is something is really close to my heart. And the way he, expressed today the story, I really like the way, because when the teacher explained, and now today when I listen to the podcasters, straight away it took me back to 10 years back. So you can think like how effective it was today. So as a recommendation, I just feel that the story was very short. It has to be little more, because when I started listening, I want to listen more and more. So when I started in 2 minutes, it stopped. So I want to listen, something you can add something more to it or something. That is my suggestion for today, and all the best.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sagar. Now let's listen from Toastmaster Dilshad. I'm sure she must be worrying about her own podcast, but still, we would like to get your feedback on this.
I really thought that his voice was quite soothing, contrast to the opening. So the opening, you already mentioned that I was looking forward to a very different kind of podcast, and then it turned out to be a very soothing, a very serious story. So maybe that there was a little dissonance over there, Syed. So if you might want to consolidate that, if you have a particular theme in mind, it would really work well if you just went with the theme all along. The introduction and the actual body of the podcast were in consonance with each other. So, someone listening just to the introduction would take it that this is a very fun, very jolly kind of a podcast, and then suddenly to switch over to a very serious mode would probably put off your audience. So if you stay consistent with the messaging, that would be great. So that was largely what I felt. Otherwise, the story was really good, and I totally agree with Toastmaster Usha and Toastmaster Deepa. A little bit of personal experience would have brought in your signature style or your signature message to the story, which is anyways available and anyways people would have heard of a million times. Your personal take on it would have made it that bit extra special. So yeah, that's what I felt.
Thank you, Toastmaster Dilshad, for your expert opinion. Now, from audio, from the other, Manju and all, who didn't switch on their video, anybody would like to comment on the podcast, please? Yes, Manju.
Good evening, everybody, and Toastmasters Diet. What I really loved is that creativity with the graphics, and I would really like to know how did you do that. And what I thought was podcast is mainly voice. You had a video in it, so that is quite courageous to do that for if at all you are a beginner. Third thing I liked is that you narrated a story. So I really do not know the purpose or the audience you are intending to podcast this. If it is to people who just like to listen to 3-minute motivational stories, or even kids or teenagers, this would be very good. But as Sagar said, if you want to add more and make it really personal, you could add a personal experience, um, uh, great courage and motivation, and way to go. All the best, side.
Thank you, Toastmaster Manju. Yeah, that is exactly. We need to define the audience as some expert podcasters advise us. We need some people. When we target, we need to actually know how the audience wants, what they want from our side. So, as Manju just mentioned, if it is for kids, if you are targeting kids or teenagers, then it's absolutely fine. Otherwise, if it is for the adults category like us, then maybe we have to look for a different approach in while delivering or while scripting the podcast. Thank you very much, our panel of evaluators. Yes, Toastmaster Ashraf, would you like to comment or give any feedback? You are on mute. You're unmuted, sir. Okay, I think he's not able to unmute himself. So with that, thank you very much for all the opinion and feedback. And I'm sure Toastmaster Syed Faisal would have benefited a lot from the recommendations from all the uh, Toastmasters, podcasters sitting over here. And brilliant approach. In conclusion, I would like to mention that we want to see, listen, and watch you more and more on in this platform, and reach to the mass majority of people and get it monetized at the earliest. All the very best, and back to you, Toastmaster Alifia.
That was super powerful. Syed, continue your journey. We won't stop haunting you for your next content.
He has a question over
Thank
there.
you so much.
He has a question about
Ashraf, you
ideal
have
duration.
unmuted yourself. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, me, Ashraf.
Yes.
Yes, actually, I am sorry, just a little bit late, and
Yeah, he just came in.
yeah, and just I want to say one good thing to you. I want to be a permanent member of the club, so let me know how I can join. Okay, just let me know.
I'll contact you.
Okay,
Please
done.
mention your number here.
Yes.
Okay, just just.
I'll send the
you can
link
contact
again
me.
and you can. Super.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's start with our second content, the most awaited one. I think Dilshad has been one of our most regular guests on the platform. She's been coming religiously and she's been absorbing a lot of information, a lot of learning from a lot of digital hacks with a lot of intelligent questions. And finally, we have managed to push her off the bridge and get her to actually deliver and make her perform and actually create her first ever podcast. So I'm going to let Usha go ahead. Why don't you introduce your podcast and then start presenting? So once again, all the people who are without the camera, Clarissa, Ashwin, PK, Justin, and Razia, you guys are going to be the ones calling out for evaluating Dilshad's content. Okay, so everyone without the cameras on are going to be, if you don't want to be speaking, put your camera on. So go ahead, Dilshad.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Alifia. And before I begin, real heartfelt gratitude to podcasters, Toastmasters, and Toastmaster Alifia. Like she said, I think I've been attending from the very beginning when she was not the presiding officer, somebody else was, and there was Samir GP and all these people. Somehow I never mustered the courage to actually take the leap, and in spite of fortnightly encouragement, in spite of making it seem so simple, I just somehow could not get myself to do it until the moment came where I was like, okay, this is good for my business, this is good for what I do, and enough of postponement, just take a dive. The final trigger, thankfully, again I have Toastmasters to thank for it, was this contest that Toastmasters announced. They announced that they would have a contest for podcasters where you needed to send in a brief if you wanted to start a podcast or if you already had one, along with a small clipping recorded in your own voice, so that you could be selected. So that actually served as the final trigger, and I said, okay, I have to participate in the contest, and the contest had a deadline. So again, there was no further delay. I just had to do it, and that's how this thing was born. It's an introductory podcast, so you don't really have a story here yet. But you will listen in and probably figure out what it's all about. That's what is being said in the podcast. So thank you very much and happy listening. I'll just share my screen. For sharing sound, yeah, okay, I just have to tick mark, right, and say share. Can you guys see my screen? Just a second. how do I? Alifia, I'll need a little guidance. Okay, 1 second.
You shared sound, right?
Yeah, I shared sound. How am I supposed to like? Where
Play
do
it.
I?
Okay, go down. Go down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
This
The
one.
black
This is
one,
the,
just play it.
the
Play it
black
from the
one.
starting.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Just reverse it. So, yeah, put that in the front.
You can hear it, right? You
I
guys
can't
can
hear
hear
you.
it? You can't hear
No,
it?
is it? No.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I think you have to click on share audio when you before
I
you share.
did that. I did
Stop
that.
sharing.
I did that.
Stop sharing, and then when you
Okay.
click on share, click
Okay.
on the audio also. Then maybe you will be able to do it.
I have said share sound is ticked. Correct? That's the one I have to tick, right?
Yeah.
Share sound. I've ticked that. How about now?
Yes, now we can hear.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Greetings of the day, Toastmasters. What we don't understand, we fear. What we fear, we judge as evil. What we judge as evil, we attempt to control. And what we cannot control, we attack. The queer community is one such that finds itself at the marginalized fringes of society, riddled with prejudice and grappling with isolation, abandonment, and ignorance. My podcast, Queer Made Clear, seeks to dispel myths, encourage conversation, educate, and empower on all issues related to the LGBTQIA community. The podcast will have a multi pronged format that shall include educative monologues, experiences, and expertise shared through interviewer interviewee dialogues, and thirdly, panel discussions that shall include persons empathetic towards the community and working closely with the queer. The panel discussions would open up opportunities for further ideation, collaborations, and exploration of greater synergies. Guests would largely comprise persons from all walks of life. These would include persons from the queer community itself, allies, parents, siblings, sex reassignment surgery experts, counselors, psychologists, queer rights lawyers, activists, lawmakers, medical professionals, healthcare workers, etc. This podcast will find resonance among both the ignored and the ignorant. The bottom line is to simplify, to clarify, to allay fears, satiate curiosity, and thereby reduce or eliminate biases and prejudices against the queer community as much as possible. Queer Made Clear is meant as much to educate and empower as it is to give hope and spread optimism among persons who find themselves unsupported, marginalized, and alone in their battle for survival simply for being who they are. Thank you.
it. Yeah, that's it. So can I just give one disclaimer from my side? I've still not mastered the matching of the music to the audio, and therefore you heard two different sets of music, one after the other, after the podcast. So I'm trying to figure that out. But yeah, this was my first attempt. Thank you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So Manju, what did you think? Manju, you with us? She's got a little flavor of podcast already. Manju comes from the Founders Toastmasters Club, and she has some senior podcast mentors. So I want to take her expert opinion.
I think what I heard was the beginning. More episodes are yet to come for Dilshad. When I started, we have a lot of apprehensions on how to start, where to start, and what would the people listen. I think if you still have those apprehensions, I would say is just go ahead and speak your mind. As you start speaking, you can bring in more people as you have planned in your podcast. So it is always the flow is the one that will help you reach the entire plan. So keep going, Dilshad. All the
Very
best.
nicely said, Manju. Yeah, agreed, absolutely. PK. PK is a very senior Toastmaster and a lot of experience. So let's give you some first-hand evaluation from PK Ray. PK, are you with us? Okay, Justin.
Hi. Hello there.
Hi. Since you're a software and technical geek, what did you think? How was her technology and how was her the way her flow went, or the way she used the mix of music, and what would you say technically for her?
Okay. So actually, since I'm absolute beginner in this field of podcast, I couldn't judge much on the technical area of that podcast area. What I like is the vocal clarity, the vocal variety, the words she used, such makes an attraction to make us listen to that podcast that will attract the audience. So, and from the beginning to that end, I listened to that one with the utmost curiosity. I haven't lost my concentration. That's good. And as a recommendation, what I can suggest is maybe we can add some questions or some kinds of facts that makes the audience to think about, or that will create that will generate more kind of curiosity in the audience, and that will definitely have an impact. And my third recommendation is to go on with this podcast, and we want to hear more from you, and we like your voice. So all the best for your future.
It's good for her work, and we like the voice, and I think she came out so profound and professional, and definitely not a novice at all. So that's a few no-brainers completely out there. Razia. Razia, are you with us?
Yes. I'm trying to unmute. Okay. So, great podcast. I listened to it. And it was fun. I'm not good on the technical part, so I don't have any technical suggestions. I'm like more of an impromptu speaker. So that part I can say something about it. The only thing that I felt is that it lacked personality. What you were speaking It was more feeling like you were reading out of a pamphlet and not your own words. That's where it where podcast shines is when you have a personality, when you talk, when you're speaking, the tone, the words that you use, and one more thing is about the words. Keep it simple rather than putting in big difficult words. Keep it simple so that you can connect to every audience, because you're going for an LGBTQ audience who are they would people relate to us speaking when we are more simple and more direct, and that way we get to connect. So some things that I follow when I speak, so I think it might help you also. Just add in a personality, add in a touch of personality, some intonations and voice modulations and everything. It was very monotonous. That is what I felt. It was very monotonous what you said. So yeah, that's it.
Wow. It needs a trained person to give some sort of, nitty-gritties and to catch that you were reading. And, this comes from what I really love about these panel interviews is you get different feedback from completely different perspectives. And that's something that you can take, adapt, or justify that, maybe this works, doesn't, or whatever, right? But feedback is the champion's breakfast, right? So, and you get different feedback from different people. At the end of the day, when your podcast is really out there in the sea of 2 million or 200 million other podcasts, and there are so many billions of listeners, everyone's going to have their own perspective and their own judgment. But this platform where we have so many different people giving a feedback gives you a variety of the spice, and you get the taste of everyone's perspective. And then you know what you can expect out there, right? Like the, 100x of each of their, and there will always be an audience like that. And that's what we want to capture from these panel evaluations that we do in every meeting. So with that, let me give this hiding kid, Ashwin. Not allowed. Come out of your your cave. Ashwin is actually a digital marketer. He's trained and stuff. He's just, Ashwin, are you there?
He's just not marketing himself enough.
Yeah, he still has to be pulled out of his shell completely. But he's supposed to create a podcast since, I think, 4 months. He's not yet done it.
Oh, that's okay. I was like, I'm beyond that. I think I've...
Okay, so Faisal, what do you think? What would you say? I like the fact that Dilshad has shown her screen. We could see the way the music shifted from the audio to the second one to the third one. So what do you think? How did you find her versus yours? Or what would you do different? Or what could she do different?
We both are big there. The important thing I would say. And we both are doing in our own way. Dilshad has done a perfect job as a beginner. She has tried well. Those things, there are options to cut. I was also, when you shared the anchor with me, I was not comfortable with anchor because I could not see more editing option. Maybe I am not exposed to those options and knowing a lot about the technology, but I did what I was comfortable. When I'm going to start something, I was comfortable in some applications. So there I could find easily how to trim the audio, how to extend the audio, how I can create many copies of the audio and videos. So there was a place to play. And what I learned in the first making of my podcast, that the first present, I was more keen to make my first impression better on the audience. How it will look design wise and how my intro will go. Then we will come later to the content part. And I got nice commendation and recommendation. I would surely inculcate those things in my podcast and will improve better for the next one.
What's the one thing you would tell Dilshad for her next one, where she could either improve or
the same I would suggest for her also, that she should start where she feel comfortable. Same what I did. I don't want to stretch my leg and I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. That's why I picked the story from Google and mentioned the credit source from where I took this story. I did not invested a lot of time in thinking the topic and story and how, and just I went with the flow, did what I am raw, and the way I am, put myself in that, showcasing myself. And you did that, you did the same as well. If we are in the digital content creation, we should have our hand on technologies, like we should at least know somehow how to create banners or thumbnails or creating the impression, because the presentation also matters, what I learned.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That's very powerful, and that's right. So yeah, I mean, do whatever, like I always say to everyone, that until you start your own, nothing that we discuss in this meeting will be relevant to you. It's only when you actually do your first one will this meeting start making sense to you. Because if you just listen to it like a movie or something like that, you're not going to relate to anything that's happening here until you have started with your first podcast. Okay, so with that, I want to hand over to Lakshmi, our treasurer and our VPE.
Yeah, Toastmaster Olivia, I'm so sorry. I was stuck in traffic. There was an accident and I was stuck right behind. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
Chad, I love the concept of your podcast. This is something which is very relevant, and it is a very big topic amongst corporates. Everyone is very conscious of being inclusive. So you have taken an excellent topic. What is it that I would have liked to have seen you do different? You yourself did mention it. I felt the amount of music that was there, and it was a bit all over the place. And for an introductory, this thing, I don't think it was required. Maybe something very mild, some instrumental in the background, maybe a violin or something would have suited better for the kind of topic you have taken. And another one, although it is just an introduction, you just started and I felt, okay, she's going to give me some stats. She's going to tell me why it is important and all that. And it was gone. Okay, I know that this is not the primary podcast. This is just an intro, but even as an intro, there needs to be more. Because it is not about getting a topic which feels good. You know, it is also about give the teaser, tell them, have you seen this so-and-so who was denied this because of that? Do you want to hear it? That is the one I want to focus on. When you had a LGBTQ or a queer in your team, and then knowing that the queer is the one who is the top performer, but still pulled down because of their orientation. Those are the kind of teaser questions I would have loved to have heard from you. I'm not asking you to give the interviews or a script of someone and all that, because I do understand, but as an introduction, I feel there should be much more. I don't mean to sound very critical, because this is something which I feel is an awareness is more needed. So I was actually, since I missed the first one and the second one, I said, oh my God, I sat up and listened. And by the time I said, okay, where is it? You were done. So I would have really loved to have seen much more of that. And you have chosen an absolutely wonderful topic. And I would, if you need any help with scripts or anything like that, I really loved it. Please do continue. Don't stop. I'm booking you as I'm sort of standing in for the VPE. So I'm booking you for the next podcast at our next meeting with your permission. Yeah. And I wanted the full 7 minutes, at least. 10 minutes, our preferred slot is for 10 minutes, but 7 minutes at least. Something, you can make it another introductory, or you can bring in your first one for the kill, whatever it is. Thank you, Toastmaster Dilshad.
And I'm here to keep DCM Lakshmi accountable also, because her podcast is long overdue.
So I'll do my next one with a knowledge tidbit. So like I said in the podcast, there will be a few knowledge tidbits, few interviews, few panel discussions. So my next one, I'll keep it very specifically on one topic, knowledge based for LGBTQ.
Brilliant. Let's do it. So let's do it. So now let me quickly, I'm going to start with the most awaited session. I know a lot of people have come in that should you podcast or should you YouTube, right? How many of you want to know that? Podcast or YouTube? Okay, the people hiding behind the screens. Do you want to know about the podcast or do you want to YouTube? Okay, super.
I want to say what others should be doing.
So we're going to start with that digital hack. So every meeting we try and get into some cover of some sort of a digital hack and some sort of learning about the next step. But before that, I'm going to quickly ask you who's taking the commitment or to be the next content presenter. So who's going to be taking the challenge? The challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the minute you say a date and your date gets announced, that's when everything starts coming in place. So I'm going to give you a challenge, an offer right now to take. So we meet on the first and the third week of every month. So on the first Monday and the third Monday. So I'm going to open 2 dates off to this audience here. So we have the 7th and we have the 21st of March. So who wants to present? Who's ready for a content on the 7th or on the 21st? So we give first preference to our members, to our podcast members. So Ashraf and Manju, I'm talking to you.
Yes, I will do next time.
You will do on the 7th or on the 21st of March?
7th. Yeah,
Ashraf ready for his content on the 7th of March. And Manju? 21st? Okay. Anything you need to create it, you call me directly. I'm on the group. I'm always available.
Yeah, exactly. I need some help, just I'm first doing, broadcast. So just I'm doing the stage presentations, but I am not first. I did not do anything in broadcasting. So just first I am doing. So definitely I need support. So I think I can contact Alif. Correct?
Done. Yes, anytime. You can call me 24 hours.
Okay. Thank you. Not 24 hours.
No, I work 365 days. You can call me anytime.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we have Ashraf on 7th and 21st, Manju. Who else is taking another slot on the 7th? You can even be a guest. You can also be another Toastmaster with another club. No problem. You can still come and present. What about Ashwin and Lakshmi? Lakshmi, you have yours created, right?
No, I have actually thought of a theme for my podcast just now as we were speaking. Let me...
7th or 21st?
You tell me. Actually, it's better to nail me down. Give me the date, I'll put it.
7th or 21st March?
Ashraf is doing 7th, right?
Ashraf is doing 7th. Yes.
Okay.
And even Faisal and Dilshad start taking your next dates.
Yeah, so I was just about to say, can I take 21st? So then you can push Lakshmi to 7th.
Like 21st,
push
yes.
I've got Dilshad
push her off the cliff. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll put Dilshad in. So we have Manju and Dilshad. Yes, Manju.
Unless Ashwin wants to take the slot. Manju wants
Ashwin, and you can always be on a backup. Lakshmi, create your content anyway. Because we are.
What about Manju has picked up her hand? Which date are you taking, Manju?
Manju has taken 21st. Manju, are you wanting 7th?
You're on mute. Manju.
Manju,
you're on mute.
Are you taking 7th?
I no 21st. I wouldn't complete on 7th. I want to know which project are we doing and how long is the podcast expected to be?
So technically we like 7 to 10 minutes. Usually, you can do your Toastmaster speech, or you can do any content of your own. If you like, you can still come and present it. Even if your content is 15 minutes or 25 minutes or anything, we would encourage you to show us the flavor of your podcast. So what you can do is show us the starting, show a little bit of a middle and little bit, and then show us how you ended it. So you can just show us a flavor of your podcast so that the audience can give you an evaluation about how we thought. And then you can share your podcast on the group as well. So everyone can listen to the full piece and still give you feedback on the group, on the WhatsApp group. So we can guide you more. Now that you've taken the date, that's great. So we have 2 people. So we have Ashraf for 7th and 21st is Manju. Anyone else gets more confident? Clarissa, Smita, Justin, Razia, if you want to really get
for 21st. Is that okay with you, Dilshad?
Yeah. Dilshad is 21st and Manju is 21st.
Yeah, so we have 2 content presenters for 21st. I'm tentatively putting myself as 7th, but I'm happy to step back if someone else wants to.
So we have Lakshmi or Ashwin on 7th.
If guests are allowed, then I can do.
Sagar, when are you presenting your podcast?
I'm saying if 7th is okay, I can do. I can start my.
Okay, so we have Ashraf and Sagar for the 7th. Okay, and we can also do 3 presenters, Lakshmi, so that's not a problem.
I'll keep mine in the background. If there is a slot available, then we will do
create it. Just create it, because podcast you can create. Normally you create for the whole month together.
Yeah.
But you've got to start. We want everyone to start. And within a month, you should take the 2nd slot as well. Within not more than a 1-month gap. Otherwise, you forget everything and you lose your full confidence that you created. So Faisal, if you don't come with your 2nd one immediately, you're going to lose everything that it took to build what you did right now. So
here, he said.
I want to say something.
Yes.
I want to say something because I'm not aware of the procedure of this club. If I have presented a podcast today, then when can I take the another slot? Because I'm afraid if I'm not giving chance to others because I can
No, just take.
Yeah.
You take. We will make place for you. This is a podcasters club, so we will make place for you. You just come whenever you're ready. Take your date. Take your date for your own commitments. Just take your date. You can say your date even now. We will make place for you. Don't worry about it. Members always get the first priority. So we will make place for you, Faisal. Just tell me when you're ready. If you're ready for the 7th, you take it now.
I can, because this meetings is divided in 2, like 1st and 3rd of the Monday. So I can be ready every alternate week. So I'm comfortable creating. Yeah.
Super. So you're on the 21st then. So we've got you on the 21st already, Faisal then. So I've got Manju, Dilshad and Faisal for the 21st. All right. So now let's get started with our most awaited segment. Let me know if you can hear clearly. I'm going to share the screen. You can see the screen and hear clearly?
Yes.
So we had a guest coming in today. So the most awaited thing about it, should you YouTube or should you podcast?
So what are the pros and cons of starting a podcast, a YouTube channel, or both this year? In this video, I interview best-selling author and founder of Smart Passive Income, Pat Flynn, and he shares some of his best tips and strategies for growing your YouTube channel and podcasts, the pros and cons of each of them, and how to monetize these platforms coming up. Hey, what's up? Think Media, Sean Cannell here, bringing you the best tips and tools for building your influence with online video. And I'm sitting here with Pat Flynn. How's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you?
Man, so good to be hanging out with you again. We're here at NAB in Las Vegas. And today we're talking about podcasting versus YouTube, the pros and cons of each of them, and really strategies for both. And this is a big conversation because a lot of people are starting YouTube channels, maybe wanting to launch a podcast. A lot of people watching might have one or the other and they want to start the other one. So there's monetization strategies strategies, how to launch, and a lot of things that go into this. But before we dive into the topics, Pat, if people are just meeting you, what have you been up to and what are you doing online?
Yeah, so online, I've been online for about 10 years now, and I do have a YouTube channel. It's been up for about 9 years. I do have a podcast. It's been up for about just about the same amount of time. So I've been in both worlds for the longest time now. And it's really interesting to see what's happening in both of those spaces, where things are headed in the future. We're going to talk about that. So, and there's a lot of people who want to do both as well, which we want to do both, but you can't just do both and just dump the content in there and call it a day. There's specific strategies that you must know about, or else you're going to actually perhaps hurt your YouTube channel in certain ways or hurt your podcast. So we'll talk about those things for sure.
I love it. So let's start with some pros and cons. And the reason I wanted to talk about this with you is because you have deep experience in both areas, especially YouTube now as your YouTube channel has been growing. So when you think about pros and cons of just YouTube, kind of in comparison, what is your perspective there?
So let's talk first about just the mechanics of how one might put content on that platform. So YouTube, obviously you have to shoot a video, and that's a lot more, there's a lot more to think about versus just recording audio, right? You don't have to sort of look nice on a radio or on a podcast, for example. But on the other hand, once you have your file ready to upload, you just upload it directly to YouTube and you build your channel from there, which is super easy once you have that content. On a podcast, it's a little bit different. You need to set things up first beforehand before you can kind of have that publish and go kind of situation. And what that means is you actually need to host your media files on a separate media hosting platform. And there's many out there that you can choose from, and they're fairly cheap. It's just another added step because you don't actually upload individual files to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Google or Spotify. What happens is you have to create what's called an RSS feed, so that you can submit that RSS feed to those channels. And then what those channels do is iTunes goes, did Sean come out with a new episode today? Nope. Okay, no worries. Oh, did Sean come out with a new episode now? Oh, he did. Okay, now I'm going to push it out to all the subscribers, and then they get notified if they've chosen to subscribe. After that, then every time you publish new content, it just automatically feeds out to everybody, which is kind of nice. Another pro-con related to YouTube is audience retention. On YouTube, especially now that I've been getting a little bit more serious about it, I've learned that if you have people watching your videos for like more than 5 minutes, you're actually doing really, really good. And on a podcast, you can get people listening up to half hour, 1 hour. I mean, Joe Rogan's podcast, people listen to 2-3 hours of content all in one sitting. And for a YouTuber, that's gold, right? And so there are some really interesting things you can do there related to better storytelling opportunities. You have the ability to have more call to actions. You have the ability to just really build a deep relationship with a person. I would say more so on a podcast because of the way that people are consuming a podcast. For example, you shouldn't be watching a video while you're driving. Like, you just shouldn't do that, right? But you can totally listen to an hour-long podcast on your commute or on a flight or any of that stuff. So there's just really interesting behavioral consumption qualities that are unique to podcasting that make it just very, very powerful. The other thing about this is, you think about sheer numbers. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, there are over 500 million active YouTube channels. Does that sound about right? Yep. Like, a lot. There's less than 1 million podcasts right now. So there's good and bad to that, right? The good thing is, wow, there's less competition, so you can kind of get in there. It's still very early in the season of podcasting right now, which is fantastic. But at the same time, it's like, well, how many overall listeners could you have versus how many viewers can you have on a YouTube channel? And this is why I think a lot of people are going for both, because on a podcast, you can build that really deep relationship. You can be with somebody on a walk, at the gym, on a plane, in the car, whatever. But with YouTube, it's like quick, informational, and the search engines and algorithms play your favorite too.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a great point because on YouTube, you're probably not going to be getting 30-minute, hour-long kind of consumption times with that deep storytelling and the connection that you could have on a podcast. But you're also getting some search advantages and you're getting maybe the chance to get to know people. So I'm curious kind of the Pat Flynn strategy. And we could also get into the execution of kind of doing everything. You're a little further in your career than maybe someone who's trying to juggle a lot of different stuff. But now that you are executing on a podcast, there's the creation challenges that come with it. Maybe it's a little simple if you just do audio and you don't have to worry about the video, but you're also executing on the video content. What are some thoughts around actually creating the bandwidth to create content when it comes to these different platforms and how you juggle those things and the complexity of everything?
I think the most important thing, no matter which platform you choose, is you plan your editorial calendar. Whether it's on YouTube or on podcasting, I've suffered from being in that content hamster wheel where you publish something and you're immediately like, oh gosh, what do I have to film next time? I have a deadline, and you're struggling, and then it kind of degrades the quality of your content because you're not planning that far ahead. So whichever platform you use, you want to make sure you plan your content ahead of time as much as possible. It's not always possible to do that, especially in some of the tech spaces where you don't know what the next phone is going to be or what the next big piece of equipment that's coming out. But as best as possible, try to come up with stuff so that you can batch process your episodes too. And I do this with my videos. I try to record 3 to 4 a day when I go into the studio to film with my videographer, and that's only once a week. And then on the podcast front, I pick a day of the week to do all my recordings, and that's Tuesday for me, which is nice. And I can do 3 to 4 episodes of a podcast at the same time. So if I come out weekly, I essentially have a month's worth of content ready to go with just 1 day of recording on both sides, which is nice.
That's amazing. And right now for you, the content is different though. YouTube content is unique and separate from the podcast, correct?
That is correct. You know, there are a lot of people who take the audio from a video and then dump it into a podcast, which is fine. And there's some things you need to worry about with that. And then there's some people who start with a podcast and then they rip out the audio and put it onto YouTube. And there's a lot of things you have to worry about that as well. The main thing is if you're ripping audio from a video and putting it into a podcast, which you can do, you need to be careful, because if a listener's listening and you say things like, hey, look at this graph over here, or oh, I love how that kind of looks and feels, can you guys see this? If a person's just listening to that, they feel left out. They're not going to listen to your show because they know that you're not creating content for them and their behavioral sort of consumption primary means of doing that. And then on the other way, if you go from audio to video, that can be very smart. However, if you just have a slide up and you play your audio over that, I mean, all of you know, if you just see a slide up and you just listen and nothing's engaging, nothing's visual, you're going to leave. And if that's you and your channel, guess what happens? You're signaling to YouTube that, you know, your channel's not worth sticking around for. And then it kind of degrades your whole channel, at least that's what I've heard. And that's not good either. So what you could do, and this is where you kind of have to be a little bit creative, you can take, for example, bits and pieces of your audio. Let's say you're interviewing somebody, which is really great, which is also another benefit of podcasting. It's much easier to interview somebody on a podcast versus like being in the same location and getting into this situation right here. So what you could do is you can take bits and pieces of your interviews, like the really good special moments that are about one particular topic. You can rip that out and put that onto YouTube. And then instead of just like a slide or a picture of that person you're interviewing, you can have bullet points show up or B-roll or some other things. Some people are actually filming their podcast interviews. So they're in the studio, they have the camera on them, and they're filming sort of face-to-face interviews, whether it's in person or on Skype, and that can work as well. A little bit harder to keep people engaged for longer, better than just a slide, but unless you have a well-known brand already, people don't know who you are, they're not going to stick around for long. So adding things like B-roll, text, other things like that can keep people engaged. Plus, you can then take advantage of the algorithms and the search, so like the keyword findability with your podcast by taking chunks out that are important and relate to search terms.
I love that. Hey, before we get into the next stat, I just wanted to ask you for a quick favor, and that is, can you like this video? That'd mean the world to me. Hit that like button, and let's just jump right back into it. So it's 2019. If you're Pat Flynn and you're coaching someone who wants to build their influence, start making money online or building their brand or their business, and they're kind of trying to weigh their options, over 2 billion monthly active users on YouTube right now. It's the second largest search engine in the world. Massive opportunity on YouTube, but large crowds, and it can be harder to create video content, especially when you're just starting. Less people on podcasts, but maybe harder to get discovered. If you were to, coach me, I'm like, I want to break through. I know I want to get my message out. I'm entertaining both. What advice would you have for me?
What I would start to ask you, well, what platform would you be most interested in? Because I want you to enjoy the process. If I force you to do video and you don't want to do video, it's going to be really tough to get some good engaging content. Obviously, the best way, if you've known Sean for a while, the best way to just do anything is just start, right? So pick one and go, but start with the one that you feel like you're most comfortable with, and then you can start branching out. What I would do is pick one, master your workflow there, productivity, efficiency, maybe even start hiring a team to help you with some of those bits and pieces so that you can get time back to then start focusing on other parts. I mean, for now, right now in my journey, it's really nice because I only have to worry about creating the content and building relationships and talking to people. I don't have to worry about all the editing and all the uploading. That's all handled by my team. And eventually you want to get to that point, which is really nice. But if I were you, I would really focus on, okay, what platform do you want to commit to for a period of time until you feel like you've got the workflow down, and then you can start to take that content and put it on the other platform. I will say there's a third option here, and our good friend Shalene Johnson's very good at this. She goes live, so she's engaging with her audience live. She takes a chunk of her live and puts that onto a podcast, And you can also put that on video, obviously, because it's live video. A little bit harder to do, especially if you're not comfortable going live. And again, the best way to get comfortable is just to go live and start practicing that. But it's really nice because you can kind of repurpose that live content very well across all different mediums, even like little micro pieces of content that you can put on social media to promote all those different platforms. The other thing about that is when you are going live, you want to make sure that whether it's for YouTube or podcasting, you don't want to interact with your audience on a recorded video or a recorded audio file. You want to separate that out. So this is what Shalene does. She goes on live, she has a great audience, and she interacts with them about a particular topic. And she'll go and back and forth with them, gets a lot of energy. I think that's good for her too, because then when it's time for her to go, okay guys, for the next however many minutes, it's just going to be me teaching you this stuff or talking to somebody about this stuff. Stay there. It's kind of like behind the scenes for them, so they get kind of little, BTS stuff, which is really cool. And then she goes into however long to deliver that content. At the end, she goes back to the audience and asks, do you guys have any questions? Let's keep engaging on this. They feel like they got like a behind the scenes preview of a podcast or a video that's coming out later. And of course, she takes that audio, puts it into a podcast, takes that video, puts it into all the different places, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, I love that. So kind of thinking strategically, and another thing you could do is if you wanted to do both, you could start with maybe an interview show if you can get in person at an event like this. And a lot of people will come to an event like this, they'll sit down with their mic, their two mics, their Zoom H4n recorder or whatever, and they'll start a podcast. But you could just throw a GoPro down and get that video angle. And a lot of people are sometimes thinking, our friend James Wedmore is now starting to film his podcast, so he also has the YouTube content. So there's a lot of different ways to think about this potentially from a top-level strategy. And if you make a plan, then you ultimately can then execute and potentially be on both platforms, yeah?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then the other cool part about this is no matter which one you're on, you want to start thinking about how to build your business and monetization. And so each one has its own benefits. A lot of advertisers and sponsors are excited about podcasts because of that retention that people have with their listeners versus YouTube, right? So it's really exciting. If you have brand deals already on your YouTube channel, you can kind of extend that. You can ask for more because of podcasts that you might have and just show them the numbers. The numbers are ridiculous in terms of how long people are listening for, which is cool. But I would encourage you to consider other ways to build your business outside of sponsorships and advertising, especially on the podcast too, because people are listening to you for however long. I mean, you're essentially coaching them for free. And of course, if they want that personalized coaching, you could start, a consultation company or an agency or coaching program or something like that. Or if you have online courses, it's a great way to give people sort of a preview of what it's going to be like to work with you versus a video, which is, usually a lot more engaging, a lot faster, and there's a lot of distractions. You can go to this related video or go to this suggested video or exit. You can't do that with a podcast. The cool thing with a podcast that I'd recommend if you start one is to shoot for that magic moment. And this is what I learned from YouTube that I put into the podcasting space. The hook. Get that hook down because that's what gives you that magic moment. The magic moment in YouTube is, okay, a person puts their hand away from the mouse and they're like engaged and ready to listen to you. With a podcast, it's they put that phone in the pocket and then they're listening to you for good. So either one, focus definitely on the hook.
I love it. Now, on that topic of monetization, you mentioned some different things that you want to be thinking about, kind of having a business model around it, maybe creating a product or coaching. But when you think about monetizing these two platforms, and you are monetizing in so many different ways, especially as the founder of Smart Passive Income, different income streams, what's just kind of maybe a menu of the opportunities for monetizing both a podcast and a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so on YouTube, you got AdSense, right? You don't have that on podcasts. Advertising, brand deals, sponsorships, you can do that on both. Selling your own products, your own courses, those kinds of things work really well on both, and you should be. I see it happening more on podcasts actually than on YouTube, which I think there's a lot of opportunity for all you YouTubers out there. There's also Patreon. Patreon, you might know about, which is sort of like a PBS, paid for by viewers like you type of thing. Podcasts are using that. There's a guy named Tom Merrill who runs a tech podcast. He's making, I think, $6,000 to $8,000 a month just from fans who love his show because they're getting that deep with him in that relationship. Affiliate marketing, huge opportunities there. I have courses on affiliate marketing because I feel like it's the most underutilized form of monetization out there. You have opportunities to be the person to connect that person to things they're already buying, and they just need a little bit of convincing from somebody they trust. So you can be that person on both those platforms. And I think once you start to end up being on both, it's great because you can talk about a product in one way and show it off on, for example, in person with your hands on a YouTube video, and then you can tell stories about that product and how it changed your life, or you can interview the founder of that product on your show, which they're going to be more likely than not to say yes because you're giving them a platform to talk about the story. I interviewed this guy. His name's Nathan Barry from ConvertKit, which is an email service provider. Not a very super sexy product. It's email service, right? But I interviewed him not about email. I interviewed him about how he bootstrapped this company, how he killed all of his other businesses to focus on this full time, how he almost gave up on it, and all the advice that he got. And as a result of that, 45 minutes later, people are clicking on that affiliate link to ConvertKit after that episode because they trust Nathan now. And that's the hard thing about affiliate marketing. It's not your product, so you have to work a little bit harder to get people to trust your recommendation. And if you have a platform to either show them how easy it is to use or how much this thing works, proof, or an interview with the founder, then it's going to be a win.
Yeah, I love that. So many different ways to monetize. Now, let's just talk about growth. And you've successfully grown multiple podcasts. And you have a YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers now. You definitely started years ago, wasn't a main focus for a while, but as you got back into it, you triggered growth again. So you know strategies on both sides. Let's just do a couple power strategies for each, starting with how to grow a podcast.
So how to grow a podcast. Number one, just stay consistent with your show. Very similar to YouTube. You want to make sure you stay consistent because you want to build that raving fan base who's going to expect your show when it comes out. My show comes out on Wednesday. On Thursday, if I don't come out, like my tribe lets me know. They get angry. So you want to build for that, right? Consistency, number one. But number two, guest podcasting. There's huge opportunities here for sure. There's a lot of podcasts that have other raving audiences that love and cherish that host. If you can get endorsed by that host on their show, it's huge. And one quick other tip that you can do on top of that is, let's say, for example, you get interviewed on a really popular person's show, and it's great. Well, let's add fuel to the fire. Let's pay that person, like if you, instead of paying for cold ads like on Facebook, pay that person to boost a post to their followers. That way more of their followers are listening. Everybody says yes to that because you're essentially giving them more money to share their stuff and break through the algorithms on Facebook. But guess what? You're showing more people that episode where that person endorsed you, right? So it's kind of a cool sort of second level trick that you could use to grow your podcast that way. Also interviewing up and comers. A lot of people on podcasts feel like, oh, I have to interview the top level people, but no. Those people are A, getting asked all the time, and B, less likely to share that show. But if you find somebody who's maybe on the new and noteworthy list on iTunes and is kind of up and coming and wants to kind of be involved and is really energetic and just coming up, I mean, help them. They're going to help you. You guys can grow together. And that's a great way to grow for podcasts as well. It's less about search and more about just the relationships and getting promoted and helped by others.
I love it. Okay, and then you've been growing a YouTube channel. What has been working for you, and what are some of the things you've been learning?
Well, on a similar route, collaborations are obviously key there as well, but a little bit harder to figure out and schedule. So the big growth tip for me is really get into your analytics using tools like vidIQ or TubeBuddy to understand sort of what keywords that people are searching for, and basically just finding the top videos that are about those keywords and making your video better. Just shoot for better watch time. So work on your hook so they're going to stick around. Keep them engaged by pattern interrupting and all that kind of stuff. Keep them involved so that they'll watch that video longer. And eventually Google and YouTube are going to start ranking your video higher than the others. And this is how I've had videos like how to start a podcast be the #1 podcasting video on YouTube now. I think, and it just recently popped too. The other thing about YouTube is you got to be pretty patient with things. If you do it right in your research up front, you're going to start to see things ramp up over time. And so I think that video just crossed.
So what are the tips we all took? A lot of tips, a little all-rounded, because always we talk about one small section and then we always have these open questions in our mind about how to grow a channel. And then we always have these open questions about, so how many of you, like, what did you take away? Would you want a podcast or would you want a YouTube from the ideas? What were your biggest takeaways? Dilshad, what do you think? You were listening intensely.
Oh, I think I would still go for podcast as my first preference. I love a lot of drama and everything. But having said that, people spend a lot of time in traffic. Ask me. I was stuck for more than an hour in traffic. And podcast, as long as the content is strong and it is something which is very relevant, I think has a much better exposure and can reach a wider audience as compared to video. Because video vlogging, you have to be in one place, be able to see something visually without getting distracted. Whereas with audio podcasting, it's easier. I can do it when I'm driving. If at all I get into the kitchen and do the cleaning, I can have it playing in the background, something which is of interest to me. I think podcast has got much wider reach as compared to video.
True. Great.
Had disagreed. He walked away.
Yeah, I think one thing he said that, be comfortable, whatever is your comfort, right? So then get started with one platform, fix it, figure it out, see what it takes to build, and then you get to the next one anyway. Dilshan, what was your takeaways?
So for me, I thought I would probably go in for a hybrid model, since my podcast will have, like I said, they'll have knowledge segments where only I am speaking. So video is not really required there. And then I thought of having interviews and panel discussions. So those definitely I could go in for a video. And in any case, what I plan to do going forward, Alifia, is probably using Zoom, because that's one platform I felt very comfortable with, apart from all the audio platforms that there are. So I am now very comfortable with Zoom. So I was thinking even recording my individual singular, let's say knowledge based show, if I do it on Zoom any which ways gives me the video separately and the audio separately. So then how I go about using it is completely up to me, right? So I think, yeah, that's my biggest takeaway. That in my mind I was just thinking, let me just stick to Zoom, especially definitely for the interviews and the panel discussions, because those I can put up on YouTube, and the ones where I am singly speaking, I can always keep the video with me for later to be repurposed elsewhere. I could use the audio for the podcast.
Brilliant. So create something, show it to us, and maybe you get another feedback from the audience. So just go with your gut feeling and create it anyway. Just remember, mindful that he said is about, don't say I look at that and nice red color or things like that. So that's something that you have to be slightly adaptive to podcasts where people don't want to feel left out, that you're not talking to them or whatever and things like that. One thing I really loved what he said is, even if you're repurposing a podcast into a YouTube channel, keep changing screens and stuff. So Faisal, that's probably instead of just having one screen, even if you're just creating the thing on a YouTube or as a video or something, just keep changing or put some bullet points or whatever that kept coming, so that YouTube doesn't feel to ignore your content. Otherwise, it won't let you rank.
Right.
So that was the biggest takeaway, where you repurpose according to the platform. So it's not just about picking it and throwing it to different, which we can do initially, because if you're a novice, you are. But if you want to really get professional and get started anyway, but that could be something that you take away.
This is something I'll have to learn, actually, how to put those slides, like make a PPT,
and he said he has a team.
Keep the voice.
There's no harm if you want to really professionally do it. There is no harm. What you cannot delegate is your voice and your speaking and your, that sort of a thing. But to get it created correctly, there are a lot of people who have come to our podcasters meeting, and some of our existing members also. Lizzie and stuff. She wouldn't edit it herself. She had a team who was editing it. She was the natural speaker, and her voice is what we were commenting her on, and brilliant, right? And she's been unwell for a while.
Did you see what I indicated? No, you didn't see what I indicated.
Yeah, I saw the money part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So we get started. So professional needs a different thing, and passion and hobby could do a different focus and stuff, So quality is what. Justin. Okay. Hey.
Hello, man.
What did you feel?
Yeah, actually, this was like an eye-opener for me. I haven't even think about this area podcast so much seriously. So I came to know about its scope and how we can connect the audience, because it won't require any kinds of active actions from our clients. It can be done in a passive mode. So I haven't think about in this direction. I think this is a great takeaway that like I came to know about this area. And I have a little bit kind of stories for you all guys, since you are all experts. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, for recording and told this podcast, do we require any special quality mic or anything like that?
Recommended. But normally, don't let it stop you. Even a normal headphone works. But even on a Zoom, when we're doing it, and if you're recording, so even for Dilshad, if she wants to record from Zoom, use the good mic, because that clarity and that noise cancellation takes it a long way. So that little bit of the headphone with the noise cancellation and that more clear this thing. So I normally use the Boya mic, which is very cheap, like $120 I got it, and I use it for all my events and for everything. But if you want to really record it, the difference is very good, because we take testimonials of our clients as well on video, and then that goes on YouTube. But when I do it without the mic, and when I just take people talking from my mobile, and so I record testimonials from my mobile phone, but when they're speaking without the mic, it's a big difference. So recommended, if you, especially on YouTube, and when you put it on the open area, you need that little extra. It's nice to have it. But if not, don't stop yourself anyway.
Okay, that's
a little professional audio is recommended. So we normally have digital hacks all the time. So we do sometimes, we've covered that part of audio in our earlier meetings as well.
Okay.
But do something, present it, you will see it. Yes, Nagarajan. You're on mute. Nagarajan, you're on mute.
Sorry. Good evening to all. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. I love to speaking, yes, but there should be some caution while speaking. So, yes, this is my first experience, and I also want to know what exactly is a podcasting, how I can do something and contribute to the society as well as to your club. Inshallah, I will learn. I will. Give me some
Our
brief.
entire mandate and our foundation is about, instead of speaking once and influencing people who are only in this room, our entire mandate and foundation is speak once and record it in a platform, which is the digital platform the world is moving towards. And you will continue to inspire people, maybe even after you're gone. So you will continuously keep inspiring people. So you will not miss this meeting. It is streamed on at least 4 platforms right now. So you can listen to it later.
Like the Toastmasters, like opening body conclusion, do I have to follow, or just like that I can speak from my heart?
You can speak from your heart when you're evaluating our presenters, but if you're creating your content, please follow the opening body and conclusion.
Okay.
But speak from your heart when you're evaluating, giving feedback to our presenters.
Sure.
The other people who are presenting, speak from your heart.
Okay, this
But if you're
presentation is
creating
for how
your
many?
content,
This presentation is for how many minutes I have to prepare?
there are podcasts which are even like 1 minute, even 3 minutes, even 5 minutes. So it depends on what you're trying to create. Someone who doesn't have a theme, does not have a topic, does not know what to do at all, we allow them to even present the Toastmaster speeches. So that speech is 5 to 7 minutes then. So just take your...
Yes, I am interested in speaking about the recent legal changes made in the destination wedding, Abu Dhabi, about the marriages.
Oh, that's a good one. Just make sure that Dubai, the UAE government doesn't find it.
It is a real boon to many people. Those who don't know the subject may not be understanding it, but really, if you go deep into the matter, until this law came into existence, before it was all just anybody, only the same faithful marriages can get it done. Now, if you have a boy, girl, and you both are interested, just 48 hours before, go to the non-Muslims marriages court.Abu Dhabi Judicial Department.ae, register it and submit all your details. Simple. Then wait for 48 hours. You will get an email approval and a WhatsApp message. Go to the office with the necessary papers. In 12 minutes, you will get a marriage certificate. Then you can live happily together. Marriage over.
Brilliant. So I think more people than who are present in this room deserve to know that. So it's your responsibility to create something which is like a good digestible size of say 5 minutes or something, create it and present it with our meeting. So tell us when you're ready and we will be pleasure to, we meet at first and third Mondays of every week. Let me quickly give you the guest link and do present it with our platform so that we can all, more people than out of the room can also get benefits from your knowledge and your research that you've already done. Razia. Razia, are you there? Sagar, what did you think? What was your takeaway about LinkedIn or YouTube or podcast? Would you YouTube or podcast? What was your takeaway from that video?
If people don't have fear of like video, then go for the YouTube. If they have fear of going live into the public, then podcast is the better one.
So which one are you?
Both are great platforms. I will choose YouTube if I have to choose.
You have to
because
choose
it will
YouTube,
cover both. It will cover podcast and
yeah. So YouTube has its own benefits. It has like billions of 2 billion viewers or channel on YouTube, right? So the population, the visitors on YouTube is like 2 billion, right? But the amount of content is actually, the content is 2 billion. The viewers are a lot more. So the amount of content in YouTube is 2 billion. So for you to really show yourself and, be found when people are searching, you're competing with that much of, crowd in a way. And podcast definitely is a faster growing and a budding whatever, but it's always, there's no harm in being on both. And nothing stops you from being from both. Just be mindful of the few tips that they said, so, and then that's it, right? So if you're creating one piece of content, you might as well be on both. But yeah, YouTube, if you're not scared of the video, like I did notice him saying that I go to the studio and record YouTube. Did he say 2 content or something? And then he said in one day I can record 4 podcasts. And one day that I go to the studio and I record 2 content for YouTube. So that was something that I took away. And the quantity could be a lot more, right? So Sagar, we're looking forward to get you on the 7th of March and listening to your content.
It will be more of like something humorous podcast.
Yeah. So you can do a YouTube also and play it. There's no harm. So anything digital is allowed. Even if you just write a blog, you can play that here as well. So any digital content is fine. And even if you don't come out of ideas and even come and speak, it's all right. We're very flexible. Great. So with that note, we are coming to 3 minutes before. I want to take a small quick feedback about from Razia. How did you find? What was the takeaway? Did you, yeah, Sagar?
Oops, my baby was shocked.
Oh, your baby wants to communicate already? Is she creating a podcast channel?
He's sitting with me watching.
Oh, adorable. She's already a speaker. I can tell when I see one. Okay, Razia, how was your takeaway from the meeting? And Justin, how was your takeaway from the meeting as as our guest?
Okay, I think I already expressed. It was such an inspiring, and I also want to be a part of it. That's my greatest takeaway.
When do you want to create your content? You have a deadline, like say 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, 3 months, by the end of the year?
I said 2 months.
2 months? Mashallah. Awesome. Lovely. Razia, how was your takeaway on this meeting? I think she's multitasking, but we've had the most of the meeting, so it's great. Clarissa, I know you told me you don't want to be speaking, but just if you want to speak, just 10 seconds for a feedback. Anything. You don't even need to start your video. If you want to just express anything, feel free. This was a speaking opportunity, just, and we open up like that. But I won't force you. You can also leave your feedback in the chat if you like. Great. So Nagarajan sir, we want to listen to your content as well. And I hope all the guests have filled in the room, the link that I've sent on the chat. So please make sure you're filling your the guest, Nagarajan sir, Razia, Justin, I think is already on it. All right, Clarissa. Clarissa, do fill your details and do keep coming back, okay?
You are sending the guest form or anything in the email?
On the chat.
Chat.
On the chat, I've given a link. If you just leave your details on it, we will update you on our upcoming meetings. And you can join the guest. Are you all on the guest group of the podcasters?
No, I cannot see this because I'm in a mobile logged in. I cannot see.
Okay. No problem. Okay, brilliant. So I'll get the guest link as well. So I hope you're all on the chat group. So with that note, thank you all to start off with your journey. Thank you all for putting your trust and faith in us and believing in our platform. And we want to definitely be the first platform that you use to really get comfortable and sharpen your axe and get started on your journey.
Just one query, Alifia, if you don't mind.
Yes,
what exactly is now the difference between the Toastmaster speeches and through the podcasting now if I give? What difference?
So what I did is I had no real plan to start a podcast. I just joined the podcast Toastmasters Club. And then they said, why don't you create something on a podcast? And I was like, what do I create? And I had no idea and I had no real plan to really, and then just to get started, I took my next pathway speech that I had to do in Toastmasters. And all I did was I used the anchor. I followed the steps that the mentors gave me that I had. Every member gets a mentor. And I just followed the steps blindly. And I just created my next 5 to 7 minute speech into a podcast. So my podcast channel is called Just for Laugh. And I call it an accidental podcast channel because it wasn't an intention and it never was and stuff. So all my Toastmaster speeches is on my podcasting channel. It's called Just for Toastmasters, Just Laugh for Toastmasters. So you can just take your next speech of your Toastmaster pathway and record it on a podcast and put it up, get it here to show, add music, add an intro, add an exit and things like that. And
here only exactly, because I am very new and not a tech savvy person. You said, make my speech in the podcasting and then I have to do in the uploading or do what is it to be done?
We upload it on an anchor. I will guide you. So if you want to do it and if you're ready, you just reach out to us and we will guide you from your start to your end. We will guide you. And we have some introduction videos and all that also.
Fine. Tomorrow or day, whatever be when I should be ready, tell me.
Can you leave your phone number in the chat and I will call you?
Okay,
or can you just, yeah.
Nance, I can help you with this thing, Nance. I'm not tech savvy and if I can pick it up, you can do it.
Sure. Thank you. Actually, by the way, I am in this group, I am introduced by my mentor, DTM Lakshmi.
Oh, super.
Yes,
so then you're in safe hands.
Yes.
So you have to help me.
Everything is Nagarajan.
Nagarajan, for now, you help me to get Toastmaster Lakshmi to create her podcast.
No problem. That's why I said, maybe if you give me another 10-15 minutes, I will give you the 7-minute speech also.
No, we've done enough for today. But we want to get your speech digitally. Okay.
Yes,
so now you're coming in next time. Okay, Nagarajan? Okay, sure, I noticed now you're on a guest channel as well.
No problem.
Brilliant.
Inshallah.
So with that note, thank you very much. We have Ashraf and Lakshmi and Sagar for next week, next meeting. And then we have Manju, Dilshad and Faisal for the 21st. Looking forward to see you all. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Good night. Have a nice time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Clarissa.
Thanks,
Bye,
Alipia. Thanks for all the
Thank
help.
you, guests. Thank you, Madam Lakshmi. Thank you all. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations, Dilshad and Fazal.
Thank you.
There are some cheers or some certificates for the first timers, I think.
Yeah, like lost our virginity types.
We want to celebrate you guys, I think.
Yeah. Bye. See you.
See you all. Bye. Bye. See you. Hello. Cheer, baby.
He wants some food. Hey, Hathi Raja.
Shy on the camera also, you're shy. How come? How come? Hello. Hello.
He just ate celery now.
Oh, cute, yaar. Oh God, these kids are so mature. Hello. My God, adorable.
He loves, this rhymes.
Nursery rhymes, huh?
You send me this information for podcasters.
Okay, so you know what?
How many
Mine is
members
very,
are
very
there
simple.
currently,
Huh.
and other details of podcasters. So I will start working on it. Na? If someone will ask me, I can share the details.
Let me send you the link of I have such an easy system. I'll send you on WhatsApp, so it will be with you forever. I'll make you an admin in that sheet.
Okay.
1 second, let me see.
This is going still live or?